Alice didn't say, and I kind of forgot about that whole experience of running up to her at BelongCon, is before BelongCon, I was having a really, really horrible anxiety couple of hours. And I messaged Jen LaRue, and she was like, you have to come to this thing. And I was like, I can't, it's going to trigger me, I'm just feeling like really anxious. And she's like, no. If any of you know Jen LaRue, you'll know that she can do this. No, you are coming, I'm not taking no for an answer. So I came, and towards the end of it, how many of you were at the last BelongCon? Fab, so you'll remember, at the end of it, a lot of people stood up, kind of, I'm not even really sure how it happened, but it was kind of like a Mexican wave of, yes, I've experienced depression, yes, I am experiencing depression, or I'm experiencing anxiety, or something around the themes of anxiety and depression. And that's why I went up to Alice, because I was like, you know what, it's time I told my story, so this is what I'm going to do today, and it's kind of terrifying, to be honest with you. So, I have done, this is my 9th public speaking of this year, so I do a lot of public speaking. Some of you were at my workshop on Friday at the Chamber of Commerce Summit, and this is the first time I've spoken publicly about my experiences of depression. And so, because of that, and because of authenticity, and because I'm sure I knew that the talks I would see before mine would kind of give me some ideas of how I wanted to communicate it, I haven't really scripted it, so I've broken one of my rules of how I usually would go and do some public speaking. And I also don't have a slide deck. Apart from this one. And so this is me at around 2, Mum, was it 2? 3. I was 3. And the reason that I decided to use this slide throughout my talk is because I feel like this slide really, this picture really summarises the essence of how I believe myself to be. And I think my parents probably would agree with that. My dad has this picture on his desk, and he said that in an email to Alice actually a couple of days ago. And when I was going through the darkest times of my life, where I completely lost sight of who I was, I would look at this picture and I would think to myself, how is this 3-year-old sassy, bubbly, beautiful girl me? Like, how is it that I have got to this point in my life and I have totally lost this person and the essence that this person is? And I think that was really important for me to constantly go back to that and to constantly think, who am I really? Like, what is going on beneath all of this anger and all of this rage and sadness? And the title of my talk, Nobody Belongs Here More Than You, is the title of a book of short stories by Miranda July, which is an amazing snapshot into really mundane situations, or I mean, I don't mean that in a derogatory way, but like just normal situations where people are experiencing loneliness or feeling like they don't belong, or they are an outsider, or they're having weird thoughts, or they're just, a bit kooky and they don't really fit in. And I love that book of short stories because of the fact that it shows mental health from so many different angles. And depression is obviously something that is experienced differently and from many different angles by many different people. So I'm going to share a little bit about what depression was like for me. Like I said, this is the first time I've spoken about this publicly, so bear with me a little bit. But most importantly, I'm also going to talk about what I did and how I got to be the person that I am today, accepting an offer of starting a business, and now we are #girl bosses. Thank you, I love that, by the way. Anyway, so for me, depression was like being at the bottom of a well. And sometimes I was so far down that well that I couldn't even really see myself. Like, it was so dark that I couldn't even really see my hands in front of my face. And the people who loved me and the people around me were talking to me, they were shouting down that well. But it felt like more like an echo of what they were saying, or like a vibration of something that was happening really, really far away from where I was. And to me, the well is I'm a writer, so I have to find a metaphor for everything, or analogy for everything. And the well is a really powerful one to explain to someone who doesn't understand what it's like to experience depression, how isolating it is, and how detached you become from the world around you and from yourself. And it's really important, this as well, from the people who you love and the people who love you. Because it's not just an illness that affects you, it's an illness that affects everybody around you. And I first fell into that well when I was 11 years old, so I was really young, and I stayed at the bottom of that well throughout my whole formative years. So I started to come out at around about the age of 20, and between the ages of about 13 and 15 was some of the most difficult periods of my life. And I tried to kill myself about 3 times during that period of my life. And I have wanted to talk about that using the platform that I have as a writer for many years, and I haven't because of the fear of what that might do for my reputation. And that is fucking bullshit. She said I could swear, so I'm gonna swear. This is a good time to swear. That is bullshit, because why is it that we're telling people that they can't talk about their experiences of these things, and especially when you've come out of it the other side, and you have a story to tell that is a story of strength, and in my opinion, it is a heroic story, and a story that I should be proud of, not ashamed of. And so to get out of that well and to get to the point that I'm at now, as Louise said, it was a decision that I had to make. And in all of these things in our lives, at all of the worst parts of our lives, we always have to make a decision, or we have the right to make that decision. And I made a decision when I was about 18 that I was not going to be that way anymore, that I wasn't going to live my whole life at the bottom of a well, that I was going to be that 3-year-old sassy little minx that we see before you in every respect. And from that point, and it was the hardest period of my life, even harder than being in the well was getting out of the well, because I characterized myself with the well. The well was my home. I was institutionalized by depression, especially because I was so young when I first felt ill. And it took me so long to shake off the comfort blanket that was depression. And I do not mean that in a derogatory way at all, but that is the truth. It became who I was. And so bit by bit I made steps. I decided that every day I was going to look at the positives. I was going to appreciate the things I had around me. I was not going to call myself fucked up anymore. And that's really important. The language that you use about yourself is really important. And every single day I was like getting closer and closer and closer to loving myself. And to do that, I also started doing voluntary work. I went to Sri Lanka when I was 20 and worked at a school for children with special needs. I've worked with a lot of different charities with mental health because it's obviously something that I feel really passionate about. And I've done a lot of projects in communications and sort of podcasts and videos and things like that with children specifically who also suffer with mental health. And today, actually, I just decided that I was going to work with a woman who spoke at the Chamber of Commerce Summit, keep saying it wrong, because she's also running a project with young teenage girls who are depressed. So I spoke to her today and I'm going to help her on that project as well. So I kind of, to sort of summarise, I guess, is what I really find frustrating when I think about this whole sort of period of my life, from not being able to talk about the fact that I tried to kill myself and having to feel ashamed of that because somehow that makes me weak, or somehow that makes me someone that you shouldn't want to be around because it might mean that I might have another triggered attack or something around that. To also, the other side of that is that now I also feel weird about standing up and telling you that I love myself, because society also tells you that you're not allowed to do that either. So you're not allowed to hate yourself, but you're not allowed to love yourself either. You have to live your life in some weird grey area where, like, again, fuck that shit! Sorry, Mum. But seriously though, like, not, we should feel ashamed of talking about mental health, but we should also feel like we're some kind of arrogant idiot if we say that we love ourselves. So I challenge each and every one of you tonight to go home and to look yourself in the mirror and to tell yourself one of the reasons why you love yourself. And to do that to everyone that you encounter in your, maybe not on the streets, that might be a bit weird, but if you want to, you can. But here tonight, or when you go home to your loved ones, just tell them why you love them, and don't be afraid to listen when they tell you why to love yourself back. Because to me, the only way that I managed to get from that little girl to the girl in the world to the woman before you is by learning the value of loving myself. Thank you.